This is a BBC podcast. You can get all our podcasts and our terms of use at bbcworldservice.com/podcasts.
Hello, this is Sportshour with me, Caroline Barker, an hour dedicated to Behind the Week in Sport. First to Egypt, where trouble broke out at a football match in Cairo on Sunday.
Egypt's health ministry says at least 5 supporters of the Zamalek football club have been killed and many others were injured in clashes with the police outside a stadium in Cairo. Other reports say the casualties are much higher. Fighting broke out before a Premier League match against the ENPPI team.
People were crushed after police fired tear gas at supporters who were trying to gain entry to the match. The fans blamed police for forcing them through a narrow, fenced-in passageway. The death toll has now risen to at least 22 and, as a result of the trouble, football has been suspended for the second time in 3 years. The same sanctions were put in place after 74 people died in riots at a match between Al Masry and Al Ahly in Port Said in February 2012. Now, while investigations into this latest incident are underway off the pitch, where does this leave football in Egypt? Khaled Mortagy has a long involvement with the game as a former board member at Al Ahly, and he's also on FIFA's committee for club football. So how will the suspension affect the game in Egypt?
I think a suspension of the league is going to be very difficult for the Egyptian clubs, especially that the main resource for these clubs to operate is really the sponsorship and the TV rights. So I guess over the past 3 years since the revolution and after the Port Said massacre, I think also the Egyptian clubs have suffered a lot. They were almost going into bankruptcy. And I think it's going to affect very hard. So I hope that this is not going to be the case, especially that we heard a statement from the Prime Minister that the league should be played again in the next couple of weeks without spectators or, in other words, behind closed doors.
If that doesn't happen, do you fear then that we may see clubs go bust, go under?
Well, definitely. I mean, it's not only the clubs, because, if you look at the stakeholders of the Egyptian football, you talk about 7 million people are going to be affected. And I don't think that this is what actually the administration would like to go into, especially, we're not having our best times now, and we're looking into promoting the Egyptian economy, and we need more resources. So I guess it's going to be more burden on the administration and the government to look for jobs or to look for other resources than football for the stakeholders.
Who needs to act now, Khaled?
I think everybody needs to act. I mean, everybody has to, focus on one goal, which is how to promote the Egyptian football again and how to work using the international norms and using how the people that actually are more developed than us are working and how they have their football now, and not to try and invent wheels. And I think one of the main important things is between the federation, between the clubs, between the spectators. I think there has to be a sort of communication on a way forward. Also with the police and the Interior Ministry, there has to be a sort of communication on the way forward, and everybody has to be on the same square. I think everybody is now, looking forward, focusing on who is to be blamed of what happened, especially that this happened again after 3 years, and it just looks that we did not learn from our mistake of the Port Said massacre.
Has it put sponsors off? Has it put backers off? And do you think sponsors and those financially backing the game will walk away?
Well, I hope not really, but again, definitely if the league is suspended for, till whatever, there will be definitely people walking away, which I hope is not going to be the case. And I don't think that if we are wise enough looking at the future of football and even at the people who are actually involved in football, that would be the right decision to, suspend the league, till nobody knows when.
And what is it like for you? What is it like for football fans in a country that loves football as a sport, not to be able to go and watch the games?
I think it's very devastating. I mean, football without spectators is like going to a wedding without invitees. So, again, it's very devastating. I mean, personally, I haven't been sleeping over the past 3 years since this happened because, looking at the young fans that went just to cheer for their club at the end of the day they die. I mean, I just, put myself in the position of the families, and I just go crazy. If this happened to my son, I don't know what would I've done. God forbid. So I think it's very devastating, not for only for me, but for everybody. Looking at these young and beautiful children and I would say young men, ranges between the age of 14 and 20, going to a stadium and get killed, trying to enter inside. I think it's very devastating. Football is made to joy and fun and people to go and cheer the clubs, and not made for people to go and die.
Khaled Mortagy. Well, Egypt is not alone in feeling the force of football violence. Brazil, too, has had its issues in recent years, with one of the worst records for football-related deaths. But could there be a solution? One club in the northeast of the country has been trying out a new way of dealing with the problem. Sports Club Recife asked the mothers of football fans to work alongside regular stewards at Sunday's derby match with Náutico. The BBC's Tim Vickery in Brazil said the so-called security mums proved an effective deterrent.
The big slogan here